Your buddy Adam, and you are checking out Podcasting Business School. This is the show where I teach podcasters how to love their show like a hobby, but build it like a business. And today we are podcasting with one of my favorite pod pals, somebody that's really cranking in the podcasting and business world, Janet Fish. We are excited to have her because we're going to talk about all of her experience with coaching, with email marketing, all the things. I have so many ideas as to where this conversation is going to go. So Janet and I create a lot of content together. We're Instagram Live and we're Clubhouse and we're podcasting. She's at Pod Pals all the time. She's in my Download Growth Club. So Janet, I'm excited to officially have you on for like a real interview. So I'm very excited about this. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. I know it's going to be a very lively conversation.
Yeah. So I want to kick it off with a little bit about your backstory because you have a ton of experience in coaching. And I feel like you could spend your marketing time and money and efforts in a lot of different places. So why the heck did you decide that podcasting was worth your time to help build your brand and build your business?
Well, thank you for asking that. So I'm just got to shamelessly plug that yesterday was my 2-year anniversary of my show. So I've been around a while. So back in January of 2020, I had been blogging for years, blogging. And I just could not write another blog. Like it was just, there was no way I was going to write another blog. So I was talking to somebody who said, well, have you thought about starting a podcast? And I was like, no, I hadn't really done that. So I did a whole bunch of research during the month of December. And I just decided what a great way to create content. What a great way to get out there. But I will tell you, or however I would say, I never thought it was going to be anywhere near as much fun as it is. I never thought it would be as lucrative as it is. And I never thought that like the community of podcasters are just, they're unique. They work really well together. They really don't compete with each other. They embrace each other. They help each other. So it's been a fabulous experience. And then I met you. So like, that's the highlight of my podcasting experience.
Well, as it should be. I think a lot of people find that like they're intimidated a little bit at first with like the microphones and will my audio sound good? And how do I actually make podcast episodes happen? But like you said, once you get into it, you're like, wow, this isn't as bad as I thought. And I'm meeting some pretty damn cool people and making some great connections. And maybe we make a little bit of money, which is the idea of this show. So you're doing all the things. Where does your show fit in like your brand strategy? Is it like with my brand, that's kind of the tip of the spear. Most people find me via podcasting. When people find your brand or work with your brand, where does podcasting fit into that?
So I consider my podcast to be the hub of my marketing. And that's only been since last year. So the first year it was just get out episodes and, fly by the seat of your pants. And I did that for 9 months, the first, 9 months. And then I met people like you who can teach me how to launch and how to monetize and all those kind of things. So over the course of last year, it really has become like what I consider the hub of my marketing. And so all of the other marketing activities I do, whether it's Instagram or, social media or networking, I always push them back to like, go listen to my podcast, get to know me there. And then I take them on the journey through getting to know me, getting on the phone with me, doing some coaching with me, joining some of my programs. But to me, it seems like my focus is the podcast as the hub of the marketing activities.
Yeah, I like that. And that's the way I am too. If I'm meeting somebody, I really want to share a link. And I've got so many episodes now that I can usually find something that if the topic of podcasting is brought up, I'm like, I probably got an episode that'll serve them, and just to pull them in. And all of a sudden we're that little voice in their earbuds, and that expert positioning starts to sink in. And if they are ready to do business at some point, we're top of mind. That's the way it should be. Now, you're somebody, I convinced you to start doing an audit style episode, and it's gone extremely well. So I want to kind of deep dive on this because I still think this is kind of a nice little tight secret that not a lot of podcasters are taking advantage of with what I'm doing with my podcast audit style episodes, and you're doing a marketing audit. So let's talk about how that fits in. I want to talk about how you're marketing the marketing audit, like where are you finding people to do this, and then the process and then the outcome of it. So let's talk about all things marketing audit.
Okay, so I'll start with where I find people. So when I go to things like Pod Pals, or I'll go on Clubhouse where they're doing a podcast match, or even if I'm just on Clubhouse talking about world, but wherever I am talking, whether it's a networking, a Zoom networking, I talk about the marketing audit. Right. So you get to sit down with a coach who's been coaching for 16 years now, coached over 1,000 people. I know a lot. I've built 7 businesses. So, and the key, I think, to growing a business is marketing. So come on, spend 30, 45 minutes with me, talk about your marketing. I give you some strategies that you can use right away to, continue to grow your business. And then it gets released as an episode of the show. So boom, now you're a podcast guest and you get notoriety from being on the podcast. So that's kind of where I get them. I am starting, because I've released, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them as a podcast episode. So I'm just scratching the surface. I'm just starting to get people who are listening to the show and saying, wow, that's a really cool thing. I'd like that.
Yep.
So I'm just starting to see that snowball start to go, which is really pretty exciting, because I never really thought when I started a podcast that it would be really a place for me to actively coach. And I love coaching, as I know you do. And I never really thought of that at the beginning. I just kind of interviewed people, and, like I said, we just kind of fly by the seat of our pants at the beginning till we really start to get into it and figure out ways that we can monetize it. And that's been a great way. Maybe it's not always right away, but eventually they come and they'll do something with me. So it's been a great way for me to monetize the podcast.
Well, I think what you mentioned about just being almost mesmerized and lulled into this like podcasting trap with just being that interview person, we think that's what it is. Like, I think that's an important point to discuss, because a lot of people, that's really where the frustration comes in. They're like, I'm a coach, I've got all this, like, I really want to build my coaching business, my consulting business. So they think, oh, podcasting means I interview interesting people in the space and I grow my brand and it brings me in dollars. And then all of a sudden, a year later, they've been releasing consistent content. Like, why the hell am I not making any more money? And why is nobody listening? And like, I had to kind of open your eyes to this different style. I was like, what if, Janet, what if you could talk to potential ideal clients as often as you wanted to, and they were psyched about collaborating and doing content with you? What if we could create that and build your email list with super fans? And you're like, hell yeah, this sounds perfect. And then we just map it out. And now you're in a zone where you're releasing these episodes as content, like you said, and people are listening and going, ooh, this sounds interesting. I want to do this. So it's self-filling at this point. And then the next phase is when people start showing up before you hit record. They go, hey, by the way, I want to hire you as a coach, before you even start the damn thing. So I'm experiencing that now, which is super, super cool, because they've listened to so many of them. They know they want to hire you before they do the audit. So that's kind of next level. But marketing, like you said, is critical to any business. You've launched multiple successful businesses. What do you see as like some of the screw up areas where, you're around a lot of podcasters? I introduced you to a lot of podcasters. We network a lot of podcasters. Where are we screwing up marketing? Or where are some low hanging fruit fixes marketing wise that you see out there that podcasters can be taken advantage of?
I will tell you that the biggest mistake I think entrepreneurs, whether they're podcasters or not, make is not taking advantage of email marketing. And I'm obsessed with email marketing, but I can't tell you how many clients that I talk to who aren't doing anything. They have a list, they're not doing anything with it. Or they don't have a list, or they've got business cards and stuff laying around all places, but they're not in a CRM or not in anywhere where they can utilize that. It just, it blows my mind. Like during the pandemic, okay, we became Zoomified, right? Because pandemic, we couldn't go anywhere. So we're all on Zoom. People are all on Zoom and they're talking to people and they're getting people's contact information, but they never do anything with it. Like, that is, to me, that's the craziest thing. So that's why I'm so passionate about email marketing, because not enough people do it. So I think that's the biggest mistake. And I have seen, because I started really doing it in the last year, and it's made a huge difference. I mean, my list has grown, and I get, I come up with a community lead magnet, whatever you call that thing, which is your pod pals. Mine is the break room Zoom party. And I send it out to my email and they join, like, because I'm engaged with them, because they know what I'm doing, because they're looking for other ways to integrate with me and my tribe and what I do. And so to me, email marketing has been like, oh my God, I kind of knew about it, but I wasn't really maximizing it. And that's, I think, was the biggest mistake people do, or people
Okay.
make.
Well, let's unpack this a little bit. And before we can even unpack email marketing, Janet, how in the world do I get people on my email list? So let's talk about what's working for you for list building and some options that you see out there that you think people should be taking more advantage of. So when it comes to actually getting people on your list, what do you see out there that's working?
So there's two things that I do primarily. One, guess what? Podcast, right? So I used to, at the beginning, let people, I'll use that word, let people sponsor my show. So they'd spend, give me $500 and I'd let them, I talk about their stuff. And then I thought, well, why the heck am I doing that? I actually made a couple $1,000s doing that. And I did it in 2 months or 3 months that I did it, which is pretty good. But then I'm like, why in the world would I be promoting somebody else's stuff when I should be promoting my stuff?
Yeah.
Right. So I do a free, like one of the things I do a free email masterclass, right? Because people know that they need email, but they don't. So that's a way to get them on my list. So number one is my podcast. I promote my stuff on my podcast, my lead magnets on my podcast to get them over to my list. And I'll say there's three things, because the second one is Instagram. I am also, involved. I try to post 4 or 5 times a week. I go live. Adam and I went live yesterday. So I'm really trying to beef that up over the course of the last year. So that's another way to get people over on my list, is through my Instagram. And then the third thing is just networking, like networking in Zoom, because sometimes we can't do as much face-to-face networking. So I would find the places where your people are, and that takes a while. Right? Don't just go and do all these Zooming, and like find your peeps and then show up consistently, and don't sell anything. Give good content. Like, they'll come to you. You give good content, you help people out. And you do this all the time, Adam. You don't like go on Clubhouse and say, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. No, you give great content, and then people gravitate to you. They get on your list. And those are the 3 main ways that I grow my list.
Yeah, it's like dating, right? Like you got to hold a little bit back.
Yeah.
You can't just let them know all the good stuff and give out all the secrets. It's just like, and when people are overselling themselves, you mentioned Clubhouse, like it happens a lot in there. I think that's why I stand out so much in Clubhouse, because I'm dropping knowledge and going, hey, check out this episode, that episode, that episode. But I'm not going buy my course.
Yeah.
I'm going, let's build a relationship. I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. You can get to know me better.
And one of my pet peeves is when I go on a Zoom, the people who start putting all their crap in the chat, not just here's my name and how to get hold of me. It's like, oh, and I have this class, and oh, I do this and I do that. Like, I'm not going and looking at your stuff because I saw you on Zoom and you put it in the chat. That's one of my pet peeves. Like, that's not value add to me. That's value add to you. So put something in the chat that's value add to them and start that conversation. So that's my pet peeve of the day.
We don't want to be needy. That's not what we want.
Or salesy, because no one likes
salesy. That. So with your marketing strategy, like obviously email marketing, once we get them on our list, like you said, we need to maintain a relationship. We need to maintain connection. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like, are you emailing once a week with like a value add newsletter thing like I do? Is there email funnel? What are the different components of email marketing that you like to navigate?
Okay. So one is the value add email once a week. And I'm not perfect at that, but I'm working really hard. That's my 2022 commitment to myself. Before Wednesday, I'm going to have a value add email sent out. So that's super, super important. But I think along those same lines, equal to that is automation. Okay. So you sign up for my masterclass, right? So I want you to watch the masterclass, but I have a workshop that's paid that I ultimately want you to pay me to go to my workshop, which is a really awesome workshop because it's a workshop, not just a listen and do nothing with it later workshop. So if you win any of my lead magnets, you're going to walk through a journey that I take you on that is 12 to 18 emails, typically 2 the first week, 2 the second week, and then once a week for the remaining. And I take you on a journey of what's like, you would take a person on the launch journey. what microphone do they need, and what editor. So I take them on the journey of who's their target market and what products do they sell and their marketing strategies. And so I take them on that journey, and I have this guideline that I use for email marketing, and it's 5 or 6 to 1. So 5 or 6 content emails that are about what you care about, not what I care about, but what you care about, to every one, what I'll call an ask. I ask you to get on the phone with me. I ask you to buy a $7, tripwire. So 5 or 6 to 1 of really good content that's about them to one ask. And so then I take them on that journey to get them. And ultimately I want to get them on the phone with me, because I sell a really high end, I call it considered a high end $5,000 marketing coaching program. And you're not going to do that through email. So I want to get them on the phone with me.
Okay. So many questions.
Sorry.
Because honestly, this is an area I feel like if I could level up in this area, I could double my revenue year over year, just because I'm so good at the relationship stuff, the manual, get eyeball to eyeball, let's network, let's communicate. I'm so good at that. And I am like 0% good at automated funnel, email marketing, list, like the 18 email thing. When you mentioned 12 to 18 emails, I'm going, I don't even know what the hell I would say in 18 emails. like when you're mapping that out, let's talk about that strategy. All right. Just like the content itself. How do you figure out you need 18 emails? Like, how do you figure out what you're going to say in each email? Any advice and just like the structure?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So, so for one thing, they say 7 to 21 touches before people will buy. So you don't need 18 emails. Maybe it's 10 emails. Okay. But you need at least 7, they say, the marketers say. So let's take that as a given. Then I start with the end in mind. Like, where do you want them to go? For me, it's probably getting on the phone with me, and to teach them, to coach them through how to build their business. And I have a 10-step process to how to build your business. So let's take you, Adam. You have your three phases of what people go through when they start a podcast, launch a podcast, let's say monetize a podcast. So in that, there's I don't know how many steps there are in there, but let's say there's 10 steps in there, right? So each of those steps would be an email. And sometimes, not a lot, sometimes, let's say target market. I talk about target market all the time. Like what's the problem that you solve and how do you uniquely solve it? So I might do 2 emails on target market. One is a video and one is text, because people consume things differently. So that might, even though that might be one step, that's 2 emails. So I can easily see how you could take people on your journey. Let's say to get into the launch your podcast blueprint, I could easily see 10 to 15, if not more, emails.
Okay.
Does that start some juices flowing there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like the thing that I know I have is lots of content assets. So any tip that I drop, I guarantee I've got a podcast episode about that I can go. And if you want more, plug your earbuds into this thing. And then we're double dipping on exposure. They're reading it, they're seeing it, they're hearing it. That's where I feel like I could really crush it, as far as just the mapping out of things. So, okay. You mentioned that you want to get on the phone with them because you got a 5K offer. At what price threshold are you like, I can fully automate this and sell it just via email, I don't need to talk to them, versus, okay, I got to get on the phone with them?
I'd say $200, $250 and less.
Okay.
I think you can sell a $200, maybe $300 workshop through email. But I don't, much higher than that. I think it's harder.
Okay. That's consistent with what I've experienced for sure in the past. So interesting. What about my Download Growth Club? Like a membership it's a per month, like it's a $97 per month membership. Do you feel like that's automatable, or do you feel like that's a conversation?
I think it's automatable, if that's even a word.
It is. We just made it up.
Assuming a couple of things. A lot of your emails are video because they need to get to know you, right? And a great way is through video. I love and I do the same thing. Send them to an episode of the podcast, because if I get them on the podcast, I'm in their ears. Soon I'm going to have them face to face. So I just think it's whatever strategy you can get to get them to know, like, and trust you. And it's got to be them seeing you or hearing you. Because if it's just text, I don't see that to be anywhere near as effective.
Yeah. Okay. So my brain is cooking on this officially, and I'm going to take this as a personal challenge to work this out. And I'll do a follow-up episode to maybe unpack the strategy. But I feel like for my brand, like my lead magnet, the podcast growth scorecard, obviously people that are attracted to that, they want to grow their show. I market it as, are you doing less than 1,000 downloads per episode? This is going to help. Well, the other thing that I really market, are you doing less than 1,000 downloads per episode, is my download growth club. Like that jives very well. So I feel like that into an email automated marketing funnel into an offer for download growth club, I feel like that makes sense. Is that?
It does make sense.
Okay. Now, for me, like my community engagement lead magnet or, something like that, I feel like I would have a harder time because they may be signing up every 2 weeks, to do it. And I don't want them to be in this perpetual email funnel they're always getting these same emails over and over again every time they sign up for something like Pod Pals. So for me, I think that's what I'm going to try, because I already got the Janet mark of approval with the flow, but also the offer is automatable as far as the conversation. And if they stay in my orbit anyway, like that's gonna make sense. It's something that comes up in a natural conversation. So you mentioned the 18 emails, the two. Go over the breakdown again. The 2 the first week, 2 the next week. That strategy. How do you figure that out?
Okay, so to me, well, okay, this is how I do it. So, okay, so it's a lead magnet. So typically, I'm delivering something to them, whether it's a link to the Download Growth Club or the masterclass video that I do. So the first one is a thank you, a welcome, and a delivery. And I always in that one tell them to expect you're going to get a series of emails, and this is what those emails are going to be, so that they expect to get them. And then, like I said, I don't know whether I just made it up because I've been using the same strategy for so long, or maybe I learned it in some marketing thing, but I find one email a week works really well. But to get them started in opening and getting them started in getting my good content, I do 2 the first week and 2 the second week. Okay. I can't tell you that there's some wild silver bullet marketing, but I've done that for a long time, and that seems to work. But okay. I would play with it if you really wanted to get into the nitty gritty of it. I would play with it because it's certainly easy to figure out, because you can see whether they opened your emails or not.
So are these people remaining on your weekly value add newsletter list? Are they getting both? Is that confusing?
That is a great question. So they are. So you're getting, and I tell you up front, you're getting this journey, right? I'm going to take you through how to launch a podcast, how to grow your audience, how to monetize. So they know that they're going on this journey with you. The value add is a very different email, because the value add that I'm trying to do is, hey, this is kind of what I'm up to that you might find interesting and maybe be able to do yourself. So the value add email, it's trying to be really more casual and more like personal, where the other ones are all about like content and, taking you along that journey. Marketing, email, like I said, target market, product, how to create content, how to create products. And then the value add is more like what's going on with me, and in a way that they would care, because they don't really care about what's going on with me unless it figures into what they're doing and helps them.
Right.
So,
okay.
I mean, and I'll keep going back to that, because I'd like to say people don't care about you until they care about you.
Yeah.
Right. So don't tell them all about you and they don't give a hoot about you.
Yeah.
Right. So until they do.
Yeah. Okay. So the next layer to unpack, then, I know how important that initial email is, or that like welcome to my world email. So to me, I kind of want to explain what to expect. So if like, as we're introducing ourselves and our brand, oh, by the way, I'm going to be sending you a series of emails that make sense for what you just signed up for, to help you out, a series of tips or whatever. But you're also going to get this email every Wednesday morning. That's my newsletter. And here's what that is about. So you kind of set the table of expectations. Like the Wednesday one, it always comes out. I'll keep sending it forever. And then over the next 10 weeks or whatever, you're going to get a weekly tip from me on this other day that is going to deliver specifically off of the area that you showed interest in. Any thoughts on that?
That's a great idea. I haven't done that, but that's because I just started doing my value add. But if I was starting brand new and creating those automations, I would do that.
Okay.
Just make sure that you do it. Like
Right.
the last thing you want is to set an expectation and then they don't do it. Like that's even worse than not doing it.
Breaking promises. I mean, that's relationship 101.
Yeah.
You want to build trust, don't break promises.
Yeah.
So maybe you even level up. Like, you know, the type of guy I am. If I can out consistent anybody, I'm not the smartest, I'm not the whatever, but if it's a consistency battle, I will win. I'm like the hungry dog on a bone. I do not let go. I will do it. So I almost want to, in that welcome email, be like, I will send this every single week. And if I don't, I expect you to call me out on
it. That's good. I like that.
Like
that fits
like
in
that.
with you. That fits in so well with you. Yeah. I think that's a great idea.
Like it's a next level promise. All right. What else should we be putting in that initial email? Because that's the one, it always gets the most opens. It gets like that, and it sets the tone for the rest of the relationship. So how do we maximize that initial communication?
I would say do video. Absolutely do video. This is what I like to do. And this is the coach in me. Is I like to give people homework, but I don't tell them it's that, but I say, here's some action items that you can do. So if it's about target market, and target market is demographics and psychographics and interest, and what's the problem you solve and how you uniquely solve it, I give them, go determine what those things are for you. The most important part, what's the problem that you solve and how do you uniquely solve it? Because that's the key to all of your marketing. So I actually challenge them to go take the stuff that I actually, that I taught you and do something with it. And I want to set that expectation that they're going to get some action items to do to further their business, to take their business to that next level. So that's one of the things I do. Because I like doing that, and people seem to respond to that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of value in creating a quick win too. Like, I think that's something that you need to look for is these people are probably frustrated. They're looking for answers and they're hoping that your stuff is the answer. And we've all signed up for things, and sometimes we're disappointed. And every once in a while we find a hero, and that's the spot that we want to fill is like, ooh, that was an over delivery. I've got momentum, and I've been in those positions. I've been in other ones where I download something and it's like a 3-line checklist or something. I'm like, ugh,
well, that wasn't
terrible.
So good.
Yeah, not so great.
Unsubscribe.
So look for those quick wins. How can you do something that just creates a little bit of momentum? Like, that's the feedback that I'm getting from my podcast growth scorecard is like, I just needed to get organized, and this helped me. That's the initial win. They haven't even scored a point yet, but they just got organized and they were aware of marketing and they started posting more consistently, regardless of their score. So what's that little win?
So I would say that, okay. Well, I had another thought that I need to get out before I answer that question. And that is, make it simple. Like, okay, so the tendency is to give them all I got in my first email, because I got to impress them. So you give me this like long email with a bunch of simple, strike, right? Compelling, useful, one link, like easy to do. Strike that like that's the word. Like, make it really impactful, but don't make it really long. Like, make it a couple of bullet points, a video. Like I said, I like to put some action items, and then I always put like, come, join my Zoom party or join my community, a link to stay engaged. But simplify. Don't throw a whole bunch of stuff at them, because a confused mind never does anything. Like, don't give them too many things to do, because they'll never do anything. So it's balancing that. I want to give them all of my, because I have so much good stuff. I want to give it all to them with what can I do that really strikes, that makes the impact that I want to make, so they continue the journey with me without flooding them with a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay. Along those lines, when do we put the offer at email, whatever? Like, if we're doing an 18 email series, when do I say
5 5 or 6 content, 1 ask.
Okay.
5 or 6 content, 1 ask.
Okay.
That's my rule of thumb.
Because my natural tendency, fear of missing out, strikes again, is all right. With each email, I want to refer them to a podcast episode, and then I want to go, hey, and if you want to join, then here's how you start your free trial. So you're saying wait till 5 value adds, send them to a podcast episode. What does that first offer email look like?
Okay. So let's step back, because your download growth, your free lead magnet, assuming they didn't get to that automation by getting the lead magnet, I don't think that I think that's something I might move further up, because and when I talk about an ask, I'm talking time or money.
Yeah.
An ask is not, I'm going to give you another lead magnet.
Okay.
An ask is not, go listen to my podcast because it might answer this question for you or take you deeper into it.
Okay.
That, to me, I don't consider that an ask. An ask is time or money.
Okay.
So I wouldn't. So I would wait till 5 or 6 before I pitch the download growth club.
Yeah, the free trial and all that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I wait a while for that, but the growth card, I would definitely do that further up, because I don't consider that an ask.
Right. Okay. Now, with that initial like sales email or whatever you want to call it, where we're gonna make, hey, sign up for the download growth club, or what is that focused on? That primarily, is it like, hey, I know we've been talking about a lot of download growth tips. Just a quick reminder this week, if you are ready to take the next step, here are the benefits of joining Download Growth Club and taking action right now. What's the language look like? Do you give a value add and do that, or is it solely focused on the pitch?
Solely focused on the pitch.
Okay.
And I won't even use that word, because solely focused on something that would bring more value to them than the cost that they pay for it.
Okay.
Which is what what you're promoting. Like the value is greater than the cost. And so it's not a pitch. It's like they need this. And so there's a bunch of sales strategies. We all know them. So what I do in mine is I say, well, if you've gotten this far, right? Because you're going to see that the same amount of people that open the first is not going to be the same amount that open the 18th. That's just natural. But I kind of give them hey, you got this far, and you qualify to get on the phone with me, right? Or if you've gotten this far, you're committed and you're doing the work and so the pump up. Now this is something available to you to get benefit. So I kind of do if you got this far, like you're doing great and you're doing the work. And so I'm going to reward you by inviting you to join my community.
Yeah. I like this, Janet. I'm going to do this
because I'm telling you. And I will say this one more time, because I just feel so strongly about it. Right now, as this is happening, your download growth club is $97 a month. Like, I don't know whether the price will change, but right now that's what it is. And you should probably increase it, but that's my coaching you, and we'll talk about that later. But the value that you get for that is way better than $97 a month. I'm a coach. Like, I know how to run a business. I'm new at podcasting, but a lot of the stuff that you talk about at Download Growth Club, like, I know because I'm a coach and I built 7 businesses. But the value for me to use my podcast to continue to grow my business and to grow the podcast and to meet I do it because I want to reach more people. Like, I love reaching more people. Like, that's why I stay podcasting, because I have a voice and I get to do that. The value that you bring in Download Growth Club is way more than $97 a month. So, like, if you even think for a second, like, oh my God, I'm trying to sell them something, bull. Like you are giving them the opportunity to grow their business and make way more than $97 a month.
Yeah. I believe that. Thank you. Thank you for saying that, Janet.
It's true. It's true. I'm in it. Right.
Right. Oh yeah. You're one of my card carrying members for sure. So I've got a lot of assets and I've got a lot of ideas around this now. Like, the ideas are popping fast and furious. So how do I mix in connection opportunities like podcast audits, like PodPal Zoom parties? Do you feel like we go initial 5 emails, just straight up tips linking to episodes, then we go to a sales email, then we go into like, hey, let's get into each other's world? Or do you feel like I should introduce things like podcast audits pod pal Zoom parties a little bit earlier than that?
I think you should do it a little bit earlier than that because they're not an ask. They don't count as the one ask
Right,
because they're
right,
free,
right. But do you
right?
feel like I don't want to send them down too many rabbit holes? I mean, do you feel like I send them down a podcast audit? That's FaceTime. I don't know. I don't. I want to keep it as simple as possible. This is where I go. I'm not going to do it because I got so many ideas about it.
Okay, so I think a couple of things. I think that the idea of sending them to your podcast will get them in front of the Zoom party and
Yep.
the
Yep.
audit,
You're right.
right? So
You're right.
you don't necessarily need to hammer that home on emails because you do that. The other thing is you're promoting those on your value add email. So I would probably not do that in the journey that you take them in the
Yeah.
automation tied to a lead magnet because they're going to get that. They're going to be on your list anyway. They're going to get that in the value add that they get on the Wednesdays.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm glad you add that clarity there. If they listen to my show, they're hearing these anyway.
Yeah.
And that self markets. And if that feels like the best option for them, they'll naturally take it. But let's talk about the last email in the series. Like, what is the email 18? What is the purpose of that? Is it trying to transition them? Because then that's where I could see me going, hey, and if you haven't done one of these yet, definitely come and do a Pod Pal Zoom party. Definitely come, like, kind of giving them that next step option of let's get connected in a different way. But what kind of goals do you set for that last email in the series?
So the last email in the series is going to be, for me, it's going to be, last chance to schedule a strategy session with me. Right. And then I might say something like, and if you're not, but I also do that. If you've come this far, you absolutely need to do this, right? You've done the work. And so I reiterate that. But then if you're not ready for that, then I'll sell them a course or I might even give them a couple of options. Buy the course, go to the workshop, wherever, so I would give them the other options that I have that don't include a strategy session with me.
Okay. Yeah. Alternate game plans, or even things like hang out in my Facebook community. Here's where I'm at in Clubhouse. It's just kind of choose your own adventure. You've gone through this far. Do you let them know that this is the last email? It's like,
I do.
Okay.
And I I use it kind of a wrap up.
Yeah.
This is where I've taken you. This is what you've learned. So if they haven't opened all the emails, they might say, well, shoot, she did an email on email mark. I'm going to go find that email. So I kind of do a little wrap up of the journey I've taken them on. And then I'm like, this is the end of the journey. And this is a way to stay engaged. Chances are if they're at 18, they're already engaged in some way.
We hope they're at least opening your emails. Hopefully,
at least they're opening your emails. So if I'm going to open 18 of your emails, I'm probably going to come to a Zoom party. Yeah. Or I'm probably going to get an audit, or I'm probably going to join your community somehow. I may not have bought anything from you, but if I'm opened 18 emails, then it's interesting because I go and look at these things, and there are a couple of people who open every email that I sent. And so I will reach out to them. I notice that you're opening a lot of my emails. You want to get on the phone and talk to me? And a couple of them will, and some of them. There's this one woman, because I can see her picture. From Canada, opens every email. I've reached out to her, crickets. But one
Open
day,
that email, lady.
I'm telling you, one day she's gonna be a client of mine because she follows everything that I do.
That is funny. What email service provider do you use?
I use ActiveCampaign.
Okay, and that allows you to do all the things you feel are necessary for your strategies that we talked about today.
Yeah, tagging, automations. All of that cool stuff. They're pretty powerful in follow-ups and reminders and all those kind of things. So yeah, it works well, and it's really inexpensive.
Yeah. And last question on email marketing. It seems like it would be important to have that if this then that automation set up where they buy the thing at email 8 or whatever it is, then we got to get them off of the email series journey. And do you feel like that's correct, or do you feel like we keep sending them?
I would keep sending them because they still, it's mostly content.
Okay.
right? For that kind of a thing, I would keep if it was really, let's say I did a holiday promotion. I did a holiday promotion. I sold the $27 thing. That's where someone's bought it. Don't send me another email about it because I've already bought it. That's when the if then else really
Okay.
matters. But if you're taking them on that journey, you want to still like if I buy the Download Growth Club, but I never get to the part of the journey that talks about monetization, and maybe you don't care, but maybe you do, right? So maybe I got so I mean, depending on what you're asking them to do, you may want to keep them on that journey or you may not. It depends on what you're asking them to do.
It's at least it's an important thing to consider and be
consider.
aware of.
Yeah.
Because the last thing we want is they drop a bunch of money with you or whatever, and then they're like, and we're still pitching them on the thing they already bought.
Yeah.
That could validate an unsubscribe. So we don't want that. Okay. Janet Fish, you've got your breakthrough, your private selling podcast, veteran coach. You've been in the coaching space a long time. I know that you analyze stuff, you look to tweak, you look to perfect. So Janet, if you had to relaunch your show right now, today, what would you do differently compared to when you launched originally?
I wouldn't do it alone. So I started my podcast. I did all the research. I bought all the stuff and I started doing interviews. And I never had a podcasting coach. I don't even know if I knew there was such thing as a podcasting coach. And it was like 9 months into it where I took this class called Next Level Podcasting or whatever. And it was like $1,000 or something, $500. I don't remember what it was, but it was the first time I got an inkling of there's someone that could help me. And I guarantee you I could have done in 3 months what it took me 9 months to do. Right. So I would say, hire someone like Adam, hire Adam. Don't hire someone like Adam, hire Adam. But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it alone. I would find somebody who can teach me what to do and how to do it and really quickly monetize it. Because I think that's important because as we know, most podcasters don't. And then the other thing I would do is I would get involved with the podcasting community. Like I tell entrepreneurs all the time, don't do it alone. Find other entrepreneurs who are going through what you're going through, because we all want to help each other and we need the support and we need the help and all that. So I would say those are the two things: hire a podcasting coach and join a podcasting community.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with just finding somebody that's doing it somewhat successfully and try to learn from them. Like that was my main struggle the first year with my original podcast, Million Pound Mission. I was figuring it out on the fly, in addition to having, being a gym owner and having, full plate there and dad, husband, and all the things. So it got really frustrating really quick, but surrounding yourself with other podcasters. And that's why I'm so community focused with my entire brand. Like it's all about getting people connected together and like, let's all help each other.
Yeah.
Well, because it's so helpful.
It really is. And I mean, if you look at some of the stuff that I do, I just following what you do. Right. I mean, I started the Zoom party because you did a Zoom. I'm like, I'm going to try one of those. Yeah. I do the audits. I mean, you find somebody who's successful and you just watch what they do. I mean, right. I won't say that half of the reason I joined the Download Growth Club was because I wanted to get closer to you and watch what you do. But that's a big piece of it for me. Yeah. Like I get close to you and I get to see what you do and you share with me these things that you do. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do that because he's successful.
Yep.
Like you have 2,000 downloads. I have 75 downloads an episode. Like, I'm 75 to 100. Like that's right. Not. So I'm working my way up and it's working. But like find somebody who's doing it and watch what they do. And if some of that stuff works for you, copy it.
Yep. Yeah. And you do that beautifully. And honestly, it's weird. Like in the podcasting space, certain people take offense to that. Like I see some of my friends going, my listeners, this person I'm coaching, they started a business and it's the same thing as what I do. And they freak out about it. I'm like, well, dude, that's the point. Like, that's like a sign of a good mentor, a good coach, is that you teach them everything that you know. Like that's what they're paying you for. It's not like, you get 75% of my best stuff, but the other, I've got to protect my brand. Like that's a sign. Like I invite that. I invite people. I talked to somebody today that's a brand new member of the Download Growth Club, and she's helping people launch podcasts. I'm like, awesome. I'm going to teach you everything that I know about this, because there's plenty of people out there. It's a personality thing too. It's like my personality doesn't fit for some people. Whereas some, they're like, this is my guy. I
Yeah,
gotta work with
me
this
too.
guy. So
Professional ass
yeah.
kicker. Not everybody wants that in a coach, right? But that is, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. I'm going to, make sure you do what you do. And that's what you pay me a lot of money to do. I don't want to be like the nice coach. I have a really good one of my best friends is a business coach. He's like the nice coach. I think that's awesome because people who don't want to work with me go work with him. But there's plenty for everybody. Are you kidding me? Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a open to everybody. It's not a scarcity world that we live in.
Well, you mentioned the word scarcity. I'm going to turn that into the word scared, because I know there are a few people out there listening that they're just getting started, or they are the classic podcrastinator. Like, they're scared to get started. They're scared to put their voice out there. They're scared. It's like, what if no one listens? What if? Like, what would you say from a motivational standpoint, from that professional ass kicker coach standpoint? Somebody they know, like, they feel like they can make an impact. They know that their messaging is on point. It's good, but that fear factor is holding them back. What are you going to tell that person?
Just effing do it. All right. And do it. Well, first, do it with help. But like, just start. It doesn't matter. It's funny. I went back and I listened to some of my first episodes. I'm like, oh my God. Right. Everybody's got to start somewhere. And then the other thing that struck me, I think something that you've said in the last, I don't know, a couple of times that we've talked, you said, when you started your podcast, you said, I'm going to give it a year. Well, okay. So maybe a year is way too frightening for you. Give it 6 months. I think for me, I said, I'm going to give it 6 months and see how it goes. Right. So just commit to it. And then I would say the other most important thing is, even if like there was 1 week I didn't really want to do an episode, I forget, it was my last year. And I'm like, I'm just going to skip this week. And then I'm like, I don't think I should skip this week. So I just did some, like, I don't really feel like doing an episode this week. And sometimes I don't really feel like working. And what do I do to get over that? And I talk for 10 minutes, which usually my episodes are 40 minutes to an hour. And that was the episode for that week. Like, sometimes you just gotta keep with it, and you got to do it.
Yeah.
And it's the community that helps you do that, but just make a commitment to do it. Like I said, I'll say it again. It's so much more fun than I ever thought it would be. And it's so much easier than writing a blog. Oh my God. I got to tell you, it's so much easier.
Kill me. I would never write a blog. No way.
Oh, 2 years. I wrote, I think it was 2 or 3 years I wrote a blog. Yeah, just start and then have fun with it. Like, don't take yourself too seriously. I've had to do that with lives. Like, you've got me doing lives.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, I did a live on Friday. No one showed up and it was just me. I'm like, okay, 20 minutes later, I'm done. That's going to happen. Right.
Yep.
So am I going to, like, I'm not going to do a live again because no one showed up. Well, that's going to happen. So just get over it and then have fun with it, because it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Beautiful advice, Janet. All right, let's get people plugged into your brand, your world, your website. Where do people go? They want to do a marketing audit. They want to check out your show. They want to, just plug into what you have to offer. Where do they go?
The best place to go is Instagram, and then go to the link in my bio. You can get to the podcast. You can get to my email marketing masterclass. You can get to the marketing audit. So Breakaway Business Coaching on Instagram, and then go to the link and you'll see all of my cool stuff.
Outstanding. And somebody show up to our Friday Live and say hello next time. We can't have this. 0 people showing up.
0 people. That was the first time that's happened, but it's going to happen. So
it happens. It's happened to me. So that's just the way it is. All right. Everybody listening in, we dove deep on the email marketing. I don't know about you all, but I'm pretty fired up about this. Like, this is one of my favorite parts about podcasting, is that Janet and I have known each other for like a couple of years at this point. We've been, networking and building a relationship, building a friendship. And she taught me things today that I've never learned from her before, that I know I can immediately implement, and I'm going to see a positive result from it. I can't wait to report back to you all as to how things work out with my very first successful automated email sales funnel.
I'm going to be on you about that.
Oh yeah.
You're going to make that happen. And
I know the accountability. The accountability is there. Like, Janet don't play, ladies and gents. But just think about how this applies to you all. Like, what could you do from an automated marketing perspective? And how could that, if it's successful, even if it's halfway successful, how could that impact your bottom line? Is that going to keep you going? Is that going to fuel your podcasting dream? Is that going to allow you to do other things with your business? So it's definitely worth a thought, and plug into Janet's world. She's got great content. I love creating content with this lady. And
Can I say,
yeah, of course.
I want to say just one more thing. So somebody downloads your lead magnet and it's about launching a podcast, and you don't send them any emails. But you said they are thinking about starting a podcast because they downloaded that thing, but they don't do anything about it for 6 months. And then they're like, I think it's time to start a podcast. But they haven't heard from you, but they've heard from somebody else who teaches people how to launch a podcast. Guess what? They're going to go buy that guy's stuff, not your stuff. Like that, when I talk about maximizing your business, when I talk about lost opportunity, it's because they might not want it right now, but when they do want it, they're going to buy it from the guy who's emailing them, the guy who's giving them good content. They're going to buy it from somebody. So let's just make sure that somebody is you.
Exactly. The thought of somebody buying for somebody else just made me throw up in my mouth a little bit, and I don't like that.
I know that feeling.
All right, Pod Pals, lots to think about, lots of action steps as always. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Janet, thank you for being a supporter of the show, a community member, a friend, and now an official interviewee on the show. I appreciate you so much, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. This was super fun, and I can't wait to do the follow-up to see where we are.
See, already holding me accountable. That's what she does, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Pod Pals, I am complete. I got to get to work. Janet's already tapping her toe. I got to get this funnel built. So we're going to send you out into the world, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We will see you on the next episode.